What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another Top 100, Episode 2 of the Top 100 Players in the NFL for the 2017 NFL season. Again, this is my opinion on who are the top 100 players in the NFL heading into the 2017 NFL season. The list was made using my knowledge of last year's play, statistics, and advanced stats, while also looking ahead into next season and judging who really are the best players when they step foot on the field week 1 in 2017. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on my top 100 list. This is episode number 2, players 80 to 61. Enjoy. At number 80, we have the first tight end on the top 100 in 2017. That is Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. Now, Jordan Reed is a hybrid tight end. He's not exactly a traditional tight end. He's not exactly a receiver, but he falls somewhere in the middle, and that's exactly why he is so tough to stop. He is big like a tight end, but he can move better than most slot receivers. He has the versatility. He has all the talent, physical ability in the world, great quickness, great leaping ability, and if he's not hurt, he's one of the biggest assets to any offense in the entire NFL. In 12 games in 2017, Jordan Reed racked up 66 receptions, 686 yards, and 6 touchdowns with a 10.4 yards per catch. Jordan Reed is definitely the go-to guy in Washington. I expect that to continue in 2017, and as long as he stays on the field, he might even challenge guys like Gronk and Kelsey up for the most yards and touchdowns for a tight end in 2017. Expect Jordan Reed to have another great season in a very good offense in Washington. I really like Reed's skill set. He's very tough to stop, and you almost don't have any single guy in the NFL that can cover this guy outright. That's why I have him at number 80 on the top 100. At number 79, I have Chandler Jones of the Arizona Cardinals, coming in as the 10th best edge player in the NFL. Chandler Jones played 16 games for the Arizona Cardinals last season, the first season he has played for the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, we know him in his days of the New England Patriots, got traded to the Cardinals. Me personally, I wasn't sure how he was going to respond to that, whether he was going to play 3-4 outside linebacker, whether he was going to play 4-3 D end. I wasn't really sure how the Cardinals were going to scheme Chandler Jones. But it doesn't really matter whether he's standing up or he's on the line. Chandler Jones is effective at getting after the quarterback. This is, again, another season where he's racked up 10+ sacks, racking up 11 in 2016, had 49 tackles, and also forced 4 fumbles. Chandler Jones is a very good all-around player with a ton of athleticism. He's a very lengthy defensive end that uses his arms to get around the edge, and his just pure strength and speed combination that's very rare for a player his size. Chandler Jones is a great athlete. I think he's going to have a number of very good seasons in the next few years, and he'll only climb as he continues to rack up these numbers year after year after year. Chandler Jones also played a full 16 games last season, which he has struggled to do in the past. If he does it again, you'll see him here on the list again in 2018. Chandler Jones, one of the better players on the Cardinals, comes in at number 79. At number 78, I have one of the best slot receivers in the entire NFL. His name is Jarvis Landry of the Miami Dolphins, coming in as the wide receiver 11 on the top 100. He played 16 games last year, had 94 receptions, 1,100 yards, 12.1 yards per catch, and 4 touchdowns. Interesting thing about Jarvis Landry this past season, his yards per catch went up, but his receptions went down. He was a little bit more of a down the field threat than he usually is. Now, Jarvis Landry, I absolutely love watching this guy. Even though he is a Dolphins player and I'm a Patriots fan, he is so fun to watch because he is a great route runner. He's a very smart player. Whether it's against zone or man, he can find a way to get open. He is the prototypical guy that you want at that slot position. He is tough. He is phenomenal after the catch, and he's one of the best in the NFL after the catch. He can also return punts. He can do it all, Jarvis Landry. I don't think he gets a ton of respect, but I'm giving him the respect I think he deserves. Coming in at number 78 as one of the tougher receivers in the NFL. He's going to rack up 90-plus receptions every year, and I expect him to do that again in 2018. Jarvis Landry is wide receiver 11 and number 78 overall on the top 100. At number 77, I have Leonard Williams of the New York Jets, defensive lineman number 10. He played 16 games, had 68 tackles, 7 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles for his coming out party in the NFL. Leonard Williams was really a guy that had an impressive rookie season, but we wanted to see how he was going to do in his second year as a pro. And he was the best player on that entire team. Despite the Jets being kind of a bad team, let's be honest, the Jets were terrible last year. Leonard Williams was the best player and the most consistent from week to week. This guy can absolutely destroy a quarterback's day or a guard's day every single week. The thing I love about Leonard Williams is he's such a great pass rusher, even with being a 3-4 defensive end. Leonard Williams can basically do it all. Not only is he usually typically on one of the better running stopping defenses in the NFL, and he's a big part of that with his 68 tackles, but also he can get inside, disrupt guards and centers, and even tackles, and get after the quarterback. Leonard Williams is a very versatile athlete. He's quicker than he looks at his humongous size, and I think he's going to be a fabulous player for years to come because he is very, very young. This is only going into his 3rd year now, and I think he's going to be a beast the rest of his career. I also think that he's going to be amongst the best at the 3-4 defensive end position. He could maybe even shift to a nose if you really need it. But I love him at that 3-4 defensive end. I think he's one of the better ones in the league. And I have him coming in at number 77. At number 76, I have the safety 7 on the top 100. That is Harrison Smith. Now, Harrison Smith of the Minnesota Vikings is another guy that doesn't get a ton of recognition. And I don't know whether what it really has to do with, whether it's because he's on the Vikings or because, let's be honest, the guy is white, I don't know, or that he doesn't get a lot of interceptions, but Harrison Smith is an all-around great safety. He played 14 games last year, had 91 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 pass deflections. Now, he had 0 interceptions, but Harrison Smith is such a great all-around player. He is great in coverage despite not getting any interceptions. A lot of people try to avoid him in coverage. He is just so aware of his surroundings as a safety. He never gets beat deep, very, very rarely, and he's phenomenal in the box. He's one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL. He's very aggressive. He hits hard. He's a great leader. He's a great athlete, and he's an all-around very good safety. Last season, I think, was probably a little bit better of a season for Harrison Smith. But this past season, I think he also had a very solid year. He continues to prove that he's going to be one of the more consistent safeties. Whatever position you put him at on the field, whether it's free safety or strong safety, he can get it done. And I'm a huge fan of his game. I have him here at number 76. At number 75, Matt PARADIS, the center for the Denver Broncos. Now, a lot of you people are saying, who the heck is this guy, right? This guy was actually one of the best centers in the NFL in 2016. Believe it or not, the Denver Broncos actually had a couple decent players on their offensive line, and Matt was one of them. He really, really broke out, had a very strong year. Pro Football Focus was a huge fan of his work, ranking him as actually the 2nd best center in the entire NFL, which is very, very high praise for a player that is relatively unknown. Coming in, I think this was his 2nd year as a starter. I think he'll continue to be a solid contributor to that Denver offensive line. You also have to factor in that he's getting some help around him on that offensive line will help him even more. He surrendered very minimal amount of pressures or sacks this season, and I think we can continue to see a very strong interior line in Denver led by Matt PARADIS of the Broncos. Now, at number 75, Matt comes in on the top 100 players of 2017. At number 74, I might have a shocker for a lot of people. That's Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant comes in as the wide receiver 10 on the top 100 players of 2017. Now, I personally love Dez Bryant, but I can't go out of my way and put Dez Bryant higher than he actually deserves at this point. I mean, Dez Bryant has been very hurt and injury prone and not as productive as he was a couple of years ago. Now, Dez Bryant, I still think talent-wise is a top 7-6 wide receiver in the NFL, maybe even a top 5. But the guy, production-wise and without staying on the field, you can't be amongst the top elite receivers anymore because it just, you can't quantify it. You can't give any reason for Dez Bryant to be there anymore. But I still think Dez Bryant is an awesome player. I love his style of play. I love how aggressive he is. I love how physical he is as a receiver. He always comes up in big games and makes clutch plays. Last year, he played 13 games in the regular season, also had a great playoff game, had 50 receptions, 796 yards, and had 8 touchdowns with a 15.9 yards per catch. Dez Bryant last season was used more as the down-the-field threat than really he was in the past. In the past, for Tony Romo, he was a guy that would rack up more receptions and kind of less of a yards per catch. But Dez Bryant this past season, because Dak Prescott was the quarterback and because there was such a run-heavy offense, they would utilize that play-action game and hitting it over the top with Dez Bryant. I think they'll continue that next season, but I think Dez Bryant will, his numbers will come back. As long as he stays on the field and plays most of the games, his numbers will rise. Because as we saw in the playoff game, Dak Prescott trusts this guy. He loves this guy, and I think he's going to continue to go to him in big situations, and Dez will make those plays. Now, the thing that really threw me off about Dez this past couple of seasons, and specifically last year, I thought he had some bad games, and I'm not sure if that's because of injury or if that's because he just got beat. But a couple of corners, specifically one that will be coming up in a little bit, really got the better of Dez Bryant, and that was concerning. So that's the reason why Dez Bryant's only at 74, but I still think he's a great player that could be way higher next year. I love Dez Bryant, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see how he deserves higher than 74 at this current time on the top 100. At number 73, I have Michael Bennett, a very similar player to Dez Bryant in situation. Now, he comes in as the defensive lineman 10. But if you told me to draft defensive lineman, Michael Bennett would most likely be in my top 5. I absolutely love me some Michael Bennett. Now, why do I love Michael Bennett? Michael Bennett is a great player because he's so versatile. And not only is he versatile, but he's elite wherever he plays along the defensive line. Whether that's at defensive end, whether that's standing or in his stance, whether that's at D-tackle, whatever you want Michael Bennett to do, left, right, D-tackle, linebacker, this guy is phenomenal. He played 11 games last year, had 34 tackles and 5 sacks. Not eye-popping numbers. But Michael Bennett over the last few years, if you talk to coaches around the NFL, they bring this guy's name up first when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks defense. He is that disruptive, and he is one of the bigger reasons why the Seattle defense took a step back last season, because he wasn't on the field that often, and when he was banged up. But if Michael Bennett is at 100%, he's super difficult to stop, he's super difficult to block, and you never know where this guy's going to line up. Seattle uses him really wisely, and I think just like Dez Bryant, he has the talent and has shown in the past that he is a better player than at number 73. But I also think that this past season and the numbers and the production and the injuries don't quite line up with him being any higher. So at this current point, I can't put Michael Bennett any higher than at number 73. But if I were asked to draft a defensive lineman, I'd want to mold one just like a Michael Bennett at number 73 on the top 100. At number 72, I have the man, the cornerback that I was just discussing that shut down Dez Bryant, JANORIS Jenkins, cornerback number 7 of the New York Giants. Now, JANORIS Jenkins played 15 games, had 49 tackles, 18 pass deflections, and 3 interceptions in 2016. My thing about Janoris Jenkins is I was not a huge believer when the Giants signed him. I thought he was a solid corner. I thought he was a great number 2 and possibly a number 1. But this past season completely convinced me about Janoris Jenkins. This guy can do it all. I mean, he's a great press aggressive corner. He's all over receivers at the line of scrimmage, and I love that style of cornerback. Now, he's just all over the receivers. He's mugging them at the line. He can make nice interceptions. He really baits quarterbacks into throwing those picks. He had 18 pass deflections last year. He's pretty good in run support. And I just think Janoris Jenkins is an all-around very solid corner. Now, he doesn't have elite speed, but he makes up for that in physicality. He makes up for that also in smarts. And I think Janoris Jenkins will, again next year, be one of the elite corners in the NFL. And when I see a guy completely take a guy like Dez Bryant out of a football game by himself, that tells me that you're an elite corner in this league. So Janoris Jenkins is corner 7 and number 72 on the top 100. At number 71, I have the man that started his career in the CFL for my BC Lions, Cameron Wake, defensive end, the Miami Dolphins. Now, the crazy thing about Cam Wake's career and really this season is that he doesn't need many opportunities to get to the quarterback. This past season, the guy only started 11 games, but had 11.5 sacks. He was one of the most elite pass rushers in the NFL when it came to production, had 5 forced fumbles, 29 tackles, and Cam Wake is one of the top 5 pass rushers in the entire NFL. Now, overall as a player, I don't think Cam Wake is one of the most elite edge players because I do think that he does sometimes struggle in run support because he is a smaller player, but he is such a great pass rusher that I have to put him at number 71. If he would have played a full season, he would have been even higher, and his production maybe would have caused him to lead the league in sacks. But Cam Wake, at an older age, is still producing at the edge position for Miami. I think he'll do it again next year, and I think he'll be one of those guys until he retires that will always be producing along the defensive line when it comes to getting after the quarterback. Cam Wake comes in at number 71. At number 70, I have TYRON Smith, the offensive tackle of the Dallas Cowboys. Another Cowboy comes in here on the top 100. Their offensive line was their staple. It was their bread and butter, and the run game followed that and just absolutely terrorized the league. TYRON Smith was a big reason why. Now, a lot of people, when they watch football and they watch the run game, they don't realize that the opposite tackle on the run play actually has a big responsibility. TYRON Smith, when the Cowboys would run to the right side of the football, when they would run to the right side of the field, TYRON Smith is that left tackle on the opposite side. But he never, and I mean never, let a guy cut the run off before it even got started. And that was a huge reason why the Dallas Cowboys had such a yards per carry average going to the outside and also going to the right side, because TYRON Smith never had an edge rusher cut him off. Now, I did think that TYRON Smith actually struggled a little bit this season more than he typically does. I saw a guy that was a bit banged up now and again, and I don't really want to take that away from him so much, but I just didn't think he was the most spectacular part of his offensive line this year. I actually looked at him this year as the 3rd best offensive lineman on his team. I still think he's one of the best tackles in the league, and I still think he has the potential to be the best tackle in the league, which I actually thought he was maybe last year or the year before that. But this past season, I didn't see the same effectiveness. Pro Football Focus agreed with me, ranked him still as one of the elite tackles in the game, but not quite at the level that he was the last couple of seasons. Whether it was because of injury or whether it was because of a combination of things, TYRON Smith wasn't the same elite player, but he's still in the prime of his career. He's still going to be elite, and I could see him easily bouncing back and becoming the best tackle in the league next year. So a little bit of a down year for Tyron Smith, even though the offense itself had an up year and the run game was spectacular. I just think Tyron Smith, maybe, especially in the passing game, was a little bit weak. But he's still at number 7 in the top 70 in the top 100. That's very impressive. And he's the offensive lineman 10 here on my list. At number 69, I have the third tight end on the top 100. That is Mr. Greg Olsen of the Carolina Panthers. Now, Mr. Greg Olsen is so effective mostly because he stays on the field. This guy has never missed a game in his entire career. He's played 16 games after 16 games after 16 games. And in these 16 games, he had 80 receptions, 1,000 yards, 13.4 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. Now, his 3 touchdowns were lower than last season. Obviously, his production was going to be a little bit lower because the offense wasn't as spectacular as it was in 2015, obviously. But this year, Greg Olsen was by far the number 1 option in the offense for the Carolina Panthers. Be that from 20 to 20 or be it in the red zone, Greg Olsen was the number 1 target for Cam Newton, and he is that chain mover, and he is essentially that slot receiver / tight end combination that a lot of teams look for. He is just such a solid player that doesn't get enough recognition. He arguably, if he has a couple of more great seasons, he's arguably on his way to the Hall of Fame. He's been that great as a Bear and as a Panther specifically. Greg Olsen has an all-around good game. He's very fun to watch. He seems like he comes up with third down catch after third down catch after third down catch for the Panthers. He's very tough to stop. He's very savvy in his route running, and I think he's one of the most complete tight ends in the NFL. That's why I rank him at number 69 on the top 100. At number 68, I have Larry Fitzgerald, sure to be a Hall of Famer, wide receiver 9 on my top 100. He led the league in receptions, had 1,000 yards, 9.6 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns in 16 games. Fitzgerald is one of the greatest receivers of all time. The only thing I'll say negatively about him is that he's just slowing down in athletic ability and speed. But what he makes up with is absolute just great game awareness and savvy, because Fitzgerald is so hard to stop within 10 yards. It's ridiculous. Like, as a Patriot fan that week 1, I swear to God, nobody could cover this guy. It was insane. He had a couple of games this year where he was just dismantling defense after defense after defense because he was so physical and hard to stop and such a great route runner. You don't see a guy that is 6'3", this big, can jump like he does and run routes the way he does. That is the thing that is so amazing to me about Larry Fitzgerald. He's transformed his game from an elite outside wide receiver to an elite, one of the best slot receivers in the league. He can do it all. He's a great blocker. He can run after the catch with the best of them. The only thing that's slowing him down is his age. I still think he's a spectacular receiver. I still think he's one of the best in the game. That's why I have him here at number 68. At number 67, I have Devonta Freeman, running back from the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Freeman played 16 games, had 227 carries, 1,000 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns rushing. It's only rushing. 54 receptions, 462 yards, and 2 touchdowns receiving. Freeman is an all-around back. That's why I love him so much. He is a guy that has a low center of gravity. If you ever watched Freeman, he's very tough to tackle. He's very quick, and he also has great explosiveness. He's very good in all facets of the game, and Atlanta's offense was one of the best in NFL history for a reason. A big reason was because of their running back combination of Freeman and Coleman. Freeman is the lead guy. Coleman is basically the guy that comes in every once in a while to come in and help out Freeman. But Freeman is that core of the offense. He's so good in every facet of the game that it's hard for a defense to single in on him at any point. He can split out as a receiver. He can play under center. He can run the ball. He can run the ball from shotgun. He can run screens. He can make guys miss. He can run people over. Devonta Freeman has an all-around great game. He's very young still. He proved himself 2 years in a row that he's one of the best backs in the league. I have him here at the 6th running back in the NFL. I think he's going to continue to be one of the elite guys in the NFL. As long as he's surrounded by some pretty good talent, he's always going to be one of the elite running backs for the next few years. The only concern I have about him is maybe the Kyle Shanahan effect. How will that affect his game this season now that Kyle Shanahan has gone to San Fran? But I believe in his skill set. I believe that he is one of the most gifted running backs in the NFL and also one of the best. So I have him here at number 67. At number 66, I have Kelechi Osemele. Very hard first name to say, but he's actually one of my favorite offensive linemen in the NFL. A guard for the Oakland Raiders. My interesting point was coming into this season, I really thought that this was one of the best signings in the NFL. He was great in Baltimore. He comes to Oakland, and he completely is one of the biggest reasons why the Raiders were so good this past season. One of the biggest reasons why the Raiders have been able to turn it around is because they solidified their offensive line. Osemele has been a huge reason for that. They run behind him. He's great in pass protection. And finally, this guy is getting some recognition as one of the better guards in the NFL. He's absolutely humongous. He runs people over. He's aggressive. He's very, very tough to knock anywhere. And I think he's just so athletic for that big size that he's tough to handle for many defensive linemen. I think he's going to have another great season with a great offense around him. And he is the best offensive lineman on the Oakland Raiders, in my opinion, at number 66. At number 65, it's Malcolm Butler, the cornerback for the New England Patriots, coming in at cornerback number 6. Everybody knows Malcolm Butler for the interception against Russell Wilson in Super Bowl number 49, but Malcolm Butler has transformed into so much more than that. He played 16 games last year, 63 tackles, 17 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. Malcolm Butler, you can safely say that stat line, he pretty much did it all last year. He can rush the passer if you want him to. He can pick the ball off. He can tip it. He can tackle people in the run game. He can force a strip or a fumble. He can also take away your number 1 wide receiver. And Malcolm Butler is one of my favorite players, not only because he's on my favorite team, but also because of how feisty he is to watch. He's a very competitive player, and you can tell that he has come up through some crazy crap that he's had to get through in his college career, in his personal life, and you can tell that this guy is a scrappy human being, not only on the football field, but outside of the football field. Malcolm Butler is one of my favorite players, really, I've seen in a long time. He's very fun to watch, and he's one of the more fun corners to watch every single week because he's always covering the number 1 guy. He's always covering the Antonio Browns, the Odell Beckhams, you name it. He's out there, he's giving it his 100%, and oftentimes he's doing a very good job at it, and he's always in their face. He's always smack-talking them, and I think that's going to continue this season. I actually expect Malcolm Butler to have his best season yet, not only as a New England Patriot, but maybe in his NFL career. Because if you think about it, this guy is due for a huge contract. Whether that's going to be from the Patriots or from another team, we'll see. But because it's a contract year, I think Malcolm Butler is going to have a massive year in 2017 and maybe even catapult himself into the top 5 corners in the NFL. But for now, I'll stick him here at number 6 and at number 65 overall. At number 64, I have Joey Bosa of the San Diego Chargers, also known as the LA Chargers. Now that they've moved to LA, they really need a big-time pass rusher. And Joey Bosa is that guy. Every time I watch this guy, he absolutely just stuck out. Every time he flew off the screen. I mean, 12 games, 41 tackles, 10.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. And did I mention this guy was a rookie last year after holding out? He barely had a training camp. He barely even had time to get, recognition with his team and his surroundings. But he just came in and played football and absolutely dominated pro football players and tackles in the NFL. And to me, Joey Bosa is going to become one of the better players in the NFL. Never mind defensive players, one of the better players. I already have him here at 64. I expect him to continue to shine in LA. I think he'll get more recognition because he's in LA, and he's playing the defensive end position. That's a pretty big, TV position. So I think Joey Bosa is going to continue to improve. He's going to be higher on this list next year. I think he's going to have even more sacks, more pressures, everything. He played, add 4 games to the 12 games he already played. I actually think that this guy could be the centerpiece of an LA Chargers defense that could be really good in the next couple of years. We'll see what happens, but Joey Bosa is one of my favorite guys to look forward to next year. At number 63, I have one of my absolute favorite players, and it seems like I'm saying that a lot in this video, but Matthew Stafford. If you guys know me, I love Matthew Stafford. He is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. He's actually probably my second favorite quarterback behind Tom Brady. I love watching this guy play because of how competitive he is and how much passion he has to play the game. You watch him, and no matter the situation, Matt Stafford puts his balls on the table, and he goes all out. I mean, Matthew Stafford has a phenomenal arm. He has very good accuracy, and he carried the Lions to a number of victories this season. In my opinion, he was one of the candidates to win the MVP last year. He had numerous comeback victories. Comeback after comeback after comeback, and that's because this guy doesn't quit. He is so ferocious. He is so intense, and he's just awesome to watch. He has his arm and his release is something to behold. And I think Matt Stafford, with a team around him that's only gotten better in free agency and through the draft, I think Matt Stafford's going to have another very good year. He played 16 games, had 4,300 yards, 24 touchdowns last season. I think he led the Lions to the playoffs last year, again with numerous victories that really had to do a lot with his performance. And in this season, I think he's going to have even better numbers. So I think Matt Stafford is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and one of the best quarterbacks from week to week just to just watch, period, because he's so exciting. Number 63, I have Matt Stafford. At number 62, I have Andrew Whitworth, the offensive lineman / tackle formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, now of the LA Rams. Andrew Whitworth is going to come in for the Rams. He's going to help solidify that left tackle position. Whitworth has been such a great player for the Cincinnati Bengals for a number of years now. He's up there in age, but he got the contract he deserves. He's still one of the best tackles in the NFL. He's just such a solid presence. This guy rarely gets beat. He's great in the pass and the run game. And he's a great leader and a great guy in the locker room. So I just think Andrew Whitworth, not much really sexy to say about this guy, but he's just solid every year after every year. And he's just one of the best tackles. I mean, he just does his job. He doesn't get beat. He blocks perfectly mostly every week. And sure, the guy's getting a little bit older, but I think LA made a good move of signing this guy. It never hurts signing offensive linemen, elite ones like Andrew Whitworth at number 62. At number 61, it's one of my favorite, and literally one of my favorite. I'm not just saying that again because it's a joke at this point. But Julian Edelman is probably my second favorite player in the NFL, and he comes in as the 8th best wide receiver in the NFL. He played 16 games last year, had 98 receptions, 1,100 yards, 11.3 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. That's just in the regular season. We'll get to his postseason statistics in just a little bit. But Julian Edelman is one of the best players in the NFL because he is so tough. He never gives up. He is so quick in the slot, outside. He's so tough to cover. If you ask any corner in the NFL who's one of the most toughest players to cover in the NFL, it's Julian Edelman. Not only because he's so quick, because he's so good in and out of his routes, because he has such great chemistry with Tom Brady, but because no matter how hard you hit this guy, no matter how much you are in his face, he's not going to back down. He's going to get right back up, and he's going to play the next play and probably catch the ball on you once again. Edelman made some spectacular catches this year, but none better than in the Super Bowl, where he made one of the most epic catches you'll ever see in your entire life. And during that Super Bowl run for the Patriots, this is a big reason why he comes in at number 61 and the last player on episode 2. He had 36 receptions, 342 yards in 3 games in the playoffs. He also had 1 touchdown and an epic catch. And if you want to factor that in, he played 3 games, averaging 12 receptions per game, also averaging over 110 yards per game. That is elite, all-time great numbers. Edelman is one of the most clutch players in the NFL, and in my opinion, the most clutch receiver in the entire league. Julian Edelman comes here at number 61 as the wide receiver number 8 on the top 100. Hope you guys enjoyed episode number 2 of the top 100 players of 2017. This one was a little bit longer, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it nonetheless. It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Tune into episode number 3, where we will have players number 60 all the way to 41. We're getting closer to see who the number 1 player of 2017 in the NFL is. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video, subscribe, and tune in to more of the top 100 on the Bottom Line View. Peace out.